I got a message from your future spouse. And what I'm hearing is hold the frequency. Hold the frequency of me. So it's coming through in a couple different ways, but holding the frequency of me is, are you feeling like a wife? Are you feeling like a husband? Are you feeling that sensational optimism that looks like what I'm asking for, I'm going to get? I'm a cooperative component to. It's just a matter of alignment. It's not something I can't have. Are you holding that frequency? And so the other energy in that to me is the frequency. The part that they're really standing out is, of course I have to say this, the frequency that you can kind of harness during things like sex magic, which if you're by yourself, obviously you're calling in a future spouse, or perhaps you're wanting the partner that you're with to be your spouse, and this isn't manipulation, but to evoke and provoke that energy, that felt energy in the body to align with it. It feels like there is this frequency energy, like use that sex magic, use that time that you're in that liminal space. Because when you think about what's happening when you self pleasure or when you're pleasuring with somebody else, you're in this space, this liminal space of creation. The mental is only focused on positivity. It's only focused on what it's really truly wanting, right? And so post orgasm, you're also in this very like open and vulnerable space to be able to connect to that creative energy within the mind and within the nervous system and within the body. So use that time your future spouse is saying to connect to me. Maybe you see your wedding. Maybe you see you guys falling in love. Maybe you imagine them next to you. It's a really interesting message, and I gotta say it. So what do we need to know? Ooh, yeah, there's this start to see me. Start to see me. And even for those of you who've never like made a love list, like your character traits, your lifestyle, your core values of a person, get that clear in your mind's eye. And then in that, right, you're going to have that feeling of, okay, I see this person. I see what I'm creating, what I'm asking for, what I desire. Am I the match to that person? Am I eye to eye with that person? Would that person that I am calling in and asking for, would they see me? Your future spouse is kind of like, you're in a space. Like I can feel this. It feels like the higher self version of your future spouse who's overseeing. And it just is giving me like, your transformations are leading you to me. Your self promises are leading you to me. Your discernment, boundaries, and daily choices are leading you to me. And they are like, I'm waiting for you in that same energy. I'm waiting to match that, right? And vice versa. So the more that you keep edging yourself out in this, I love what I'm doing. It's solar plexus energy. It's actually showing up as eye to eye. And it's this feeling of like that solar plexus willing, powerful, devotional, seeing clearly, making self valued choices, self authoritative choices, changing how you're creating. Again, like say you look at that love list and you're going, okay, I want somebody who works out in the gym, but you're somebody who has no gym routine. You might want to say, well, maybe I don't need to work out in the gym, but maybe I need to be that person who starts to have a certain routine with exercise, maybe within my home, whatever. But now I've become a little bit more in the stream of something similar. And it doesn't mean you have to be the same person, but it's what would that person value? What would that be? How would that be mirrored into what they would choose, right? And it's more just kind of trusting what you feel called to and what you feel pulled in that. Your future spouse is also like, feel for me. There's these double fives, 5, 5, changing like you could be sometimes feeling lost in that liminal space that looks like, I'm lonely. I don't have anybody. I haven't had a relationship that's worth me investing in. I don't feel loved. I don't feel seen. I feel like da 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 da, right? You can be lost in that sea of emotion sometimes that gets you stewing, brewing, and recreating that type of experience and expecting, right, that to be your experience. And it's like your future spouse is like, break it, baby, break that chain of emotional suffering, and use those emotions to lock in. Start to say, if you have lonely moments, oh, but I would never abandon myself. Oh, I have all these people in my friendship group and my family that if I need to, I can reach out. There's ways for me to find connection. I'm maybe just needing a little extra alone time. It's like, use that time to create, change, shift the narrative. And I would say also then begin to use that emotional rawness to feel in, okay, well, if I'm lonely, let me sit here and envision being held by my future spouse. Let me envision the banter, the laughter, the lightheartedness, the being seen by somebody. Let me feel into that so it seeps and saturates into my being. Any way the wind blows you, you're in a time of really trusting your healing process and that it's leading you to your true north, or that it's just leading you to better times. And your future spouse is saying all those decisions that you've made for yourself, all those discernments, all those logical, right? It's coming through as the Queen of Swords, and we've got, right, the whole chessboard here. All those logical choices and decisions that you've had to make that sometimes looked like having to be unemotional, having to get out of that emotional response and reaction instead using your discernment, your mental clarity, your learned lessons, and your self-value to make certain moves that, though they might not look like you're getting the emotional vibrancy that you seek, the emotional reciprocation within your experience. Maybe people around you aren't as excited as you are becoming, or they're not reflecting happy, healthy beings. They're not maybe being as aware of all the changes that you've made. And some of you that's not true. I'm just kind of moving through the energy, but your future spouse is basically like, you're locking in, you're shifting, changing, and letting your healing guide you, and not using your outer circumstance to dictate who you are, and where you're going. Like, it's leading you to them. And you're becoming so much more of a clear and true and communicative being. You had to get prepared in communication for this person. You used to not trust yourself fully to say certain things, or you didn't trust if it would be received well, or maybe you spoke too emotionally, maybe like a preoccupied anxious that would just like spill emotions and try to get them fixed always in the moment instead of really truly understanding them yourself. Your future spouse is like, all this self-trust that you've been doing is going to allow us to meet eye to eye, because there's not going to be any distortion. There's not going to be any projection. It's kind of how I want to say it. There's just going to be clarity. Even if somebody's lost in their feels, there's going to be a very clear way of talking about it, working through it. And as I said, that I got the High Priestess. It's because you both are very spiritual. You both have at least a trust in your own intuition. And it came out prior to that, the Two of Swords. Your future spouse is like, listen, I'm telepathically talking to you, communicating, pulling your energy towards me, and vice versa. So trust what you hear in your dreams, see in your dreams, feel. And that's partially why there's this frequency energy. Like, tune into my frequency. I'm right here on the channel that channeled future spouse. Three of Coins. Yeah. So just keep following your healing, your mastery. You cannot miss this person. They are somebody that's manifesting you. So don't get lost in what's not here. Get anchored in what is and keep going.